Welcome back to the channel. My name is Wong, and today I'm looking for a daily driver, something that's powerful and still understated and still true to being a JDM classic. It's kind of hard to find a car that fits all three of that criteria. So one of my good friends, Roger, has just dropped off his daily driver, and I think it could potentially fit the bill for all three of them. So without further ado, guys, this is it. This is a year 2000 Toyota Aristo V300 JZS 161, and this is a car that is home to the legendary twin-turbo 2JZ GTE engine. It's the same motor found in the twin-turbo Supra. It's the only other car that Toyota ever made with that engine, and in actual fact, this was the first car to ever have it. So let's go for a drive and jump in this thing and see whether or not it could potentially be my future daily driver. Now before we start off, I just want to mention that this is not a Lexus GS300. I know it's badged up as one, but that's purely because a lot of Japanese owners, when they bought this car, really wanted to have the global export model. And so they badged it up as Lexuses instead of Toyotas. This car was only released in Japan. It's kind of like how Holden owners put Chevrolet badges on their Commodores and vice versa. I know it's kind of strange, but this is how the owner got it. So let's go, guys. Just looking at it, really, it exudes a level of JDM presence that I just can't get over. And then when you peer behind the skin of this, it's got that 2JZ engine from that twin-turbo Supra. And what this platform essentially gives you is a 2JZ twin-turbo Supra in a four-door executive sedan. It really is just so characterful, and I know it's based upon the same GS300 chassis, but this platform has so much potential. And this car isn't bone stock. It's got high flow turbos, it's got a bigger intercooler, it's got 1000cc injectors, and all up, it's pushing about 250 rear wheel kilowatts of power. From factory, the Toyota Aristo was good for making 280 horsepower or 208 kilowatts on paper. And because of the gentleman's agreement in Japan in the 90s, all cars were limited to just 280 horsepower. And this car was one that was severely understated from factory, so many people could very easily extract huge amounts of power from the twin-turbo 2JZ engine with just bolt-ons and a tune. And it could make that power very reliably, and that's because of that cast iron block of this 2JZ engine. But it's also interesting to note that in 1991, the first generation of the Toyota Aristo sported this twin-turbo 2JZ GTE engine. And then from there, it was just so successful that Toyota sought to put that flagship engine into their flagship sports car, and thereby being in the Toyota Supra. It was because of the great success in the Aristo. And in the second generation behind me here, it carried on that same trend of having that 2JZ engine. They came in two different models, the S300 with the naturally aspirated 2JZ, and this, the V300 with the twin-turbo 2JZ. And all of these cars came with the twin-turbo 2JZ Series 2 engine, thereby having variable valve timing. There really is just so much to like about this car. Let's jump behind the wheel and see how it fares. Let's see how this thing goes. So we're gonna go for a drive. It is almost peak hour traffic, so that really allows us to see whether the Aristo can be driven on a day-to-day basis. This car is a high-performance sedan, and make no mistake about it, any car, I think, with a 2JZ twin-turbo engine is gonna be a super quick four-door sedan. So let's just see if... Straight away when you jump on this car, there's an insane amount of response, and it is a 3-liter, 6-cylinder, twin turbocharged engine, and the way it delivers that power is just quite intense. There is a little squeak going on from here. I think it's a loose bolt. Okay. There was a loose bolt that was driving me insane as I was just potting around town. I've been searching for a daily driver, admittedly, for quite some time. I want something that's a little bit understated, as I mentioned earlier, and still kind of fun to drive. And that's a difficult balancing act to gauge because all of these cars are so different from every single aspect. The other day I drove a Subaru WRX STI Type RA, and that was an epic 4-door driver, but it is a little bit raw and kind of hard to live with on a day-to-day basis. But then when you jump into the Toyota Aristo, I don't know if you can hear that, but there's the Japanese tollgate lady just speaking to me. I think it's saying there's no card in the reader. That's just how all of these JDM imports are, really. But like I was saying, as soon as you jump into the Aristo, it's a very premium, spacious, and luxurious cabin. It's reminiscent of the Toyota Century. This model is year 2000. So it's not the first generation of the Aristo, it is the second generation. So being a very similar model year to the second generation V12 Toyota Century that I drove just a couple months ago, it has some elements of refinement that both of these cars share. And I really quite like that because this car just feels effortless when you're driving it. It's extremely comfortable. And mind you, this has a set of D2 performance racing coilovers, and that doesn't disrupt the cabin and the feel of just how supple this drive is. You're gonna have to bear with some stop and starts, but ultimately, this is what it's gonna be like for a daily driver. So if you can do the hard yards and bumper to bumper traffic, then, well, if it's any better on an open stretch of roads, then it's just a huge bonus. Straight away, the response is very linear and quite punchy down low because there's just bucket loads of torque, and it starts building from 2.5 and it pulls you right up there into the red line. It really is quite rapid, and in this car you've got a power button similar to the Century, and you can activate it and it changes the mapping of the engine so that it unleashes a little bit more torque and response, which is kind of fun about this car because you don't have to be on it at all times to have a taste of the 2JZ, which is really quite cool. I think it gives it a sense of duality, and this car does have a host of modifications already, which increases the performance, making 250 kilowatts of power at the rear wheels. It's a very nice amount of power to just keep you always ahead of the traffic, and whenever you need to overtake, you can really just do so at ease. As with all of these Toyota Aristos, whether be it the V300 twin turbo or the S300 with the naturally aspirated 2JZ engine, they all came with a 4-speed automatic transmission. And that's not necessarily a bad thing, because this being an executive VIP luxury sedan to compete against the likes of Mercedes, BMWs, Audis, because it was a reliable and performance-driven sedan. And when you're cruising, the 4-speed automatic is very smooth and linear. The shifts don't jar the driver in any way, shape, or form. It just puts around really easily, and if you're in low gears, low RPM, it really just feels like a normal and comfortable cruiser. And having such a potent engine at the heart of this car, it just makes it a little bit more exciting. And this is the best that Toyota had ever created in an engine. And to be having that in your executive style sedan, I think it's just so darn cool. But if you want to have a little bit more fun and performance out of the Aristo, it's actually got manual mode. And it's got a form of old school paddle shifters, I guess you could call it. It's a Tiptronic system that allows you to switch between the gears on the steering wheel. So thumbs actually bring the gears down, second gear, and then with your fingers, you can upshift. It's a really cool system that just immerses you into the driving experience of this huge executive beast. And it does feel really quite fun. For such a large car, it masks the feeling of all that weight. We've got the car in fully manual mode again. I'm just gonna open the window so you can kind of hear what this 2JZ sounds like with that TRD exhaust. It's very smooth as it builds up the power band, and it doesn't stop building as you get up there. My lord, this thing really moves when you get on it. And this is so close to its standard form. I don't know, that soundtrack just is so engaging, and having that 2JZ engine just kind of blows my mind a little, because when you think about such a big car, it just doesn't add up in your head. That surge, it just pulls you forward. That is really a whole lot of fun. And then when you shut the windows, put the car over into automatic mode, everything just calms down into a sedate, comfortable cruiser. It's really designed for those Japanese executives to get from point A to point B in a very quick and short amount of time. It does so very efficiently and reliably. But as I'm driving this in bumper to bumper traffic, it feels effortless, it's easy. You know, it's not a chore driving the Aristo, and if I'm really having to think about it, there is so much modification potential that can be had in this car. If you think about the Toyota Supra and just all the crazy things that people have done to that motor in the Supra, all of those things could be applied to the Toyota Aristo. And it's only a matter of time now that values on these cars are just gonna skyrocket. Having a look at just the 2JZ GTE engine, prices are absolutely absurd. For the engine alone, you're looking at nearly 10,000 Australian dollars. The gearbox, the V161 6-speed manual Getrag, is also close to that $10,000 mark as well. So when you're buying a car that already has that 2JZ GTE engine, and then a platform that is still really usable, and when it comes down to it, if you ever decide to strip out the engine from the Aristo, you could very well do so. And to pick one up, you're looking at spending anywhere between 15 at the very low end up until 30 to 35,000 Australian dollars. It really depends on the condition of these cars, but I think honestly, in a matter of years, these things are just gonna skyrocket. And also, they're going to be open and eligible for import in the United States very soon when they hit the 25-year mark. So if you're looking for a driver's car, this is definitely not going to be that car that's suited for you. It just has comfort at the forefront with so much performance as well. So if you're going straight line speeds, you'll have a blast. And if you're on the highway, this thing will just obliterate a lot of cars on the street. And if you're into modifying, that potential is there and so much more. But when you find a corner, it does feel kind of lofty and soft, and it's probably not the most ideal of cars for you. But if it's a daily driver, I don't think it can get any better than this in some aspects, especially for the value for money. I'm gonna put down the windows again, chuck it over in manual. Oh, I just want to hear that 2JZ. Okay, first gear. I really hope it's picking up that sound. Oh my God, I would really love to put on a blow-off valve and intake and a louder exhaust so I can really extract that soundtrack of the 2JZ, because I think that's just what it needs to be a really fun and engaging daily driver. I mean, as it is, so close to its standard form, it still is a hoot to drive. I'm a little bit conflicted because as a person, I really like agile, raw, visceral driver's cars, but I've never really fancied a daily driver that's just so comfortable and luxurious. That's never been me by nature. So driving and experiencing this car just highlights a section of these cool, awesome executive VIP JDM sedans that I am really fond of, and it's growing on me as every single time I hop behind the wheel of one of these cars, like the V12 Toyota Century. That thing was a riot. Although that was even more luxurious and executive, this just has a good blend of both of those things. I know it's based on the Lexus GS300, but it's still a very aesthetically pleasing car. Some people do call it ugly, but to me, I think it's unique. And as you roll in this car, you pull up and you look like an absolute boss. I had several people come up to me, ask me, what's so special about this car? And I tell them, it's got a twin turbo 2JZ, and people absolutely lose themselves because they just don't expect it in a car like this. And that's what I like. It's super understated, and not many people know what's hiding in this Aristo. Well, I think this drive really has summed up what I think about the Toyota Aristo, and I want to say a huge thank you to the owner Roger for allowing me to have a taste of what this car has to offer. It's going to be up there on potential daily drivers on my list. In the upcoming videos, I've got so much more exciting content coming. I've got a track day coming with a very special car and some more really cool and unique content that hasn't really been surfaced on this channel before. I'm super excited for you guys to see what's going to come on this channel really soon. If you guys have enjoyed this drive in the Toyota Aristo V300 JZS 161, please give it a thumbs up. In the comments below, tell me what you like about the Aristo. Consider subscribing to the channel as well, and I'll catch you guys in the next video. Please take care. Bye for now.